Hei, Ed Brown her fra Stefanus-alliansen. Vi er en missions- og menneskerettighetsorganisasjon. Og vi eksisterer fordi millioner av mennesker diskrimineres og forfølges for sin tro. I Forum Stefanus får vi møte noen av disse modige menneskene, våre partnere som står midt oppe i kampen for trosfrihet. Velkommen til Forum Stefanus.
Today we are going to be talking with a good friend of mine, Nayla Tabbara. She has her doctorate degree in the science of religion from the Sorbonne University in France and St. Joseph University in Lebanon. She is the co-founder and director of the Institute of Citizenship and Diversity Management at the Adyan Foundation in Beirut, Lebanon. Welcome to you, Nayla.
Thank you, Ed. Very happy to be with you.
Now, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do? Describe some of the challenges that you face as a female Islamic theologian, trying to break down some of the religious intolerance and patriarchal dominance that you find in the region that you're in.
Okay. So, as you mentioned, I work in Adyan Foundation. It's an NGO that we co-founded, Muslim and Christian co-founders, and people who don't necessarily represent themselves from their religious affiliation, but all of them believing in three things: diversity, solidarity, and human dignity. In our organization, we try to promote basically diversity through concepts like inclusive citizenship, education on diversity, and something that we call religious social responsibility, which is also working with religious institutions and leaders to get their responsibility not only on the level of their community, but on the level of the entire society. I myself also have other work as as you mentioned, as a Muslim theologian. So I also try to promote hearing the voice of women in religious interpretation, because until now, in most religions, the major interpretation has been done by men throughout the ages and has not taken into consideration women's point of view. Recently, there's a lot of scholarship, especially Islamic, on Islamic feminism. So women working on women's issues from the point of view of religion. But my fight is also to say that women need to speak up about other issues, not only about women's issues, but other issues. The same as men don't speak about men's issues only, but all other issues. In Adyan also, we've tried to promote women as also being religious leaders too, not only men religious leaders. In our Arabic language, we don't say religious leader, we say religious man. It's already exclusivist as a terminology. So we've invented the terminology or added to the terminology, and now we say religious men and women, or religious women and men, and we've been trying to mainstream that also in the media when we cover our events, and of course try to have events that are always including women who are speaking for religion.
Wow, that's amazing work that you're doing. This idea of in Arabic that the term for religious leader is masculine, and how you're trying to introduce a feminine aspect as well. So both masculine and feminine terms side by side. It's really phenomenal work. Have you seen any positive results of the work that you're doing in Lebanon, in Beirut? And I forgot to mention, you're sitting in your office, or at your home office perhaps, in Beirut right now as we speak. Is that correct?
That's correct. I also forgot to mention that Adyan also is a Lebanese organization. We work mainly in Lebanon. We also work in Iraq. And we work with trainers, educators, thinkers, scholars from all around the Arab countries. And of course, we have programs that are with Europe or with North America. So from the things that we have achieved in Adyan, Among the things is our work through education, working on changing the curriculum slowly. It's a very slow process, but also in parallel to that, working with youth in high schools. We've been doing that for the past 11 years, and the youth that have been part of our programs on diversity, inclusive citizenship, and empathy and solidarity, these are youth that are playing an important role in the current Lebanese situation.
Exactly.
So we can see the actual effect on the ground.
And tell us a little bit about that. What's been happening on the ground? What are your thoughts on the development or the decline of freedom of religion or belief and human rights in general in the Levant, with a special focus on Lebanon? What's going on there? Describe some of the the current COVID-19 crisis and demonstrations, the uprising in the youth, and what has been the role of Adyan and your particular role in those activities?
Okay, so I think if we look at the situation in general, FORB has a long way to go in our
listeners. FORB is freedom of religion or belief.
There's a lot of room of improvement, although Lebanon is a country that as a basis is different from all its neighbors, because in its constitution, Lebanon talks about diversity and talks about freedom of conscience. Yet, there is a certain number of religions and religious sects that are recognized, that have the possibility to have their own houses of worship, 18, that are related to 3 main religions, which are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But other faiths are not recognized. So people, workers coming from outside of Lebanon, people in Lebanon who belong to other religions of those 3 don't have a recognition. So there's a positive, but still there is a way to go. Yet what we've been witnessing in Lebanon and in other countries is a decline, especially in freedom of expression. But this is related also because there is a correlation sometimes between freedom of expression and FORB, especially when it is people criticizing either a religious party in power or a certain religious interpretation mainstreamed or belonging to one hegemonic group. So this is something that we've witnessing a little bit in Lebanon, a lot in other countries around us. So this is where we need to work a lot to focus on the freedom of expression, and with it, for us in Adyan, when the revolution started in Lebanon and in Iraq too, because we're very also concerned with what's been happening in Iraq, we were backing up the values that have been highlighted by the revolution. And because these are the values that we talk about, and these were the values of justice, equality, human rights, diversity, accepting diversity, refusing xenophobia, refusing patriarchalism, refusing the hegemony of one ideology or one religious group on all the others. So all of these issues, we back them up as values, as issues that we work on, and we found them on the ground. What was also interesting for us is, for example, that people who have been part of our programs for a long time have played a crucial role on the ground and in the revolution. As Adyan, we want to remain a forum for people from different positions and different perspectives to come and discuss. But we are glad to see that the values that we hold dear and that we've been fighting for are being seen on the ground. What was beautiful to see in Lebanon and in Iraq is that all the principles and values that civil society has been working for are being seen on the ground by the young men and women revolting.
Wonderful. And having worked in this field of freedom of religion and belief for many, many years, we are a Christian organization, of course. Sometimes we meet Christians who say, show me one Muslim who's doing good things for freedom of religion or belief. And it's good for me to be able to say, well, I know many, And here's one that I know is a friend of mine, and you're a, as I mentioned before, a Muslim theologian, and you are working for the freedom of religious belief for everyone in the region, and you're looking at the broad human rights perspective as well. So I just want to say I'm very proud to be your friend, and I'm very happy that we got to know each other. Can you tell us maybe 3 things that you see that could have a positive impact on the situation for religious minorities in the region?
I think we're proud at Adyan to have worked on the concept of inclusive citizenship, and soon we will be launching a charter of inclusive citizenship that we've been working on with Sheikh Abdullah bin Baya, the Forum for Promoting Peace in Muslim Societies, a very important or prominent Muslim religious leader, other organizations, religious organizations from the Middle East. This was done with the facilitation of Wilton Park. We will be soon launching this charter for inclusive citizenship in Arab countries. I think that, for us, this is a step forward that builds on a lot of documents that have been promulgated by Islamic official institutions in the past years. With all those documentations from Sheikh Abdullah bin Baya, from Al-Azhar, which is considered like the most central or representative Islamic religious organization, these documentations and declarations that have been issued in the previous years go in the direction of citizenship, of equality, speak about religious freedom, not yet for per se, but open up to the issue of religious freedom. And these are very positive. So building up on those declarations, following it up with more policy work for inclusive citizenship in Arab countries, I think these are positive steps for the future. That should be completed, I think, with it is very important to work together for the elimination of blasphemy laws.
Yeah. So inclusive citizenship and removal of blasphemy laws, I think that would strengthen the situation for religious minorities considerably in many parts of the world.
Definitely, but again, to say that in our part of the world, not only religious minorities suffer from lack of freedom of religion or belief, but religious majorities, because when you also belong to a majority that is hijacked by a political group or an ideological group that is promoting its own interpretation, you become a minority within the majority that you belong to because your discourse is different. And today, the numbers of people who belong to majorities but who have a different discourse are very large. And this explains why there is more and more restrictions on freedom of expression.
Very good point. I'd like that. It's a point I've made many, many times in meetings with ministries of foreign affairs officials around the world. Just moving towards the end of our program here, we as a Christian organization believe in being grateful for what happens in the world, and sometimes we can look at the negative things that happen and focus on them. So I'm all the guests that I'm going to be having on this show, I'm going to ask them at least the same last question. Can you tell me 3 things that you're thankful for right now, briefly?
Okay. Would you like these things to be things that happen on the ground, or could be concepts?
Either one, whatever you feel most comfortable with that you want to share.
Okay, so I'm grateful for the actual fact of gratitude. The fact that we can have gratitude and think positively, and gratitude allows us to always be optimistic and keep the faith. This is one thing I'm very grateful for. Another thing I'm grateful for is empathy. The capacity for us to have empathy and to have solidarity that is beyond our community. the fact that we can defend human rights for others, and that we can defend for people who are from another religion, who don't believe in any religion. The fact that we can have that empathy and to concretize it in solidarity. And the final thing I'm grateful for is people like you, Stefanus Foundation, Stefanus Alliance, all the people around the world who are working for human rights, human dignity, freedom, and freedom of religion or belief, freedom of expression and of conscience.
Nayla Tabbara, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Okay.